All right. Well, what I was hoping to focus on a little bit today was leadership and accountability. So, as the coach, I think but I really love your thoughts. If you can discuss the concept of accountability from you having a plan, coaching to the plan, adapting the plan based on the results that you're seeing or the outcomes that you're seeing. And then at what point it becomes the accountability for the players to take over as well when they're on the field, and making sure that they're accountable throughout the game as well.
Wow, how many minutes or hours do we have? This is a big and interesting question.
It's only one question.
Well, I think, first of all, I think it's important to bring it back to where it all starts, because I build everything we do on the field. Before I hold anyone accountable, I build everything we do on the field on the qualities of the players. So it's not Tony's game plan and all of a sudden try to fit players into that. And it's about looking at what are the core qualities of the players, especially the best players, and how do you bring the most out of them. And then together with the team, get them included and have their input in setting a goal. This is what we want to achieve, but also answering the how we're going to achieve it. But maybe the most important question is the why. Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to play this way? Or why should player X provide the width on this part of the field? Or why should we press a certain way? And if everyone have the buy-in to the why, I also think it's much easier to then look at accountability. Because then all of a sudden, I can hold someone accountable, but more so, they can hold themselves accountable and they can hold a teammate accountable, because we agreed on why we're doing it. And then we can hold each other accountable on the how, like this is what you were supposed to do, or this is what I'm supposed to do. And that inner voice also from a player perspective on the field, like this is what I'm supposed to do. And also the wanting and the drive and the inner motivation to actually do it because it's part of a bigger picture. I think that's the approach I try to have from a leadership perspective.
Mm-hmm. Is that accountability within their skill set or their knowledge, and or is it a stretch target as well?
I think it depends on which individuals we talk about here, because every individual is different, like in every workplace. Some players might be too critical on themselves and hold themselves accountable in a way that they shouldn't. They should be relieve that, handbrake a little bit. Some players are too loose. Some players are a really good communicator and communicate to others and hold others accountable. But then it's that classic one, like, it's that quote of clean your own carpet first before you demand anyone else to do it. Do your business first before you try to hold others accountable is also important. So I do think it's different for each individual. But what I do know, though, it's very important for any successful team that you have formal and informal leaders that can drive that performance.
Yeah, and that's a great segue into the next question as well. So I don't know how much you know about hockey, and certainly in Australia, we had a coach, Rick Charlesworth was the coach of the Hockey Roos during a really successful period for them. And one of the approaches that he had was effectively a rotating captain, because what he wanted to see was that accountability, responsibility, and leadership through all the players, not to have it as one person had to do that all the time. And I wonder your thoughts on that, whether or not, that was probably back in the early 2000s and maybe even earlier than that, but thoughts on leaders versus captains, and thoughts on, across the team, do you have what you need in that space?
Oh, this is also a very interesting question, because I do think leadership is not just one captain to lead a team and everyone else follows. I think you can be leaders in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. Like Sam Kerr, for example, as a captain, is a completely different captain than, for example, when I worked with Caroline Seger in Tyresö, who's also the captain for the Swedish national team. But every captain needs to be having the license to be themselves and be true to who they are. And Sam Kerr needs to be captain as Sam Kerr is captain. And then you have a different leader like Claire Polkinghorn, for example, who lead by example, the way she's a professional every single day and the way she commit on the field to always give it 100, even if she doesn't do it verbally all the time. She do it physically and with her presence as a person. So there's so many different ways of leading. But what we've talked about also is it could be different people leading in different situations. Everything from who is the voice in the locker room, or who is the voice in the huddle, or who is leading when we press high on the field, or who is leading when we defend our goal zone, or who is leading when we have an attacking corner, or who is leading when we have a team building activity, or I can mention so many different examples, and I think it's important to create room in an environment like this, that it's not just one person that leads all the time. We can take turns, but also same thing as staff. It's not always the head coach leading. It can be different voices that lead in different areas, also in a national team environment. And I think that goes for staff as well, that different people lead in different situations.
Yeah. Okay. My next question is a little bit different. Do you have the whole orchestra that you need? So I used an analogy with my wife before, just saying that do you have everyone? Do you have a violinist? Do you have a piano player, or do you play around them somehow if you don't always have that, but you can still make beautiful music, or you can still have a beautiful game of football even if you don't have all of those elements?
Fantastic analogy and metaphor. We've used something similar.
I'll let you use it again.
Can I steal it?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Actually, that reminds me about the discussion we've had the last 2 weeks here. Very intense discussion with the coaching staff in terms of roster selection. Because when you discuss, what roster you should bring to tournament, you actually talk about those things. What are the different instruments that we need, or the different skill sets that we need? And some of the players that are picked to roster might not be the best player, but the best instrument for that orchestra in that tournament, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And I've spoken a lot about game changers. It's not just about a starting 11, it's also about a finishing 11. If you look statistically in tournaments, most of the games, especially in playoffs, are won the last 30 minutes, or even in extra time and PKs. And those game changers are crucial. So you look at bringing different instruments into that orchestra when you build that roster, whether that's aerial presence or pace or 1v1 skill set or defending skill set, or that unique sharp tool that you need that maybe the roster haven't had before and such. So you try to balance that, but at the same time you want to have enough options to be true to how you play. Even if player X, Y, or Z is playing, you want to make sure that you have those core values and core qualities in the team as well. For example, we run a lot. This team runs a lot. It's a high octane running game when we press and we attack, and it's back and forth from 18 to 18, and so there's some core values that needs to be in there, but then you want to have those different tools or different instruments like I talk about.
Yep. And were there a couple of players who were close to making the squad that you could comment on?
Out of respect to those
Yep.
players and to those clubs, I might not want to go into names, but what I can say that there's plenty of players left outside of this roster that have quality that deserve to be picked, if I put it that way. That's the toughest process. To be honest, a coach that says, or at least if I would say, hey, picking a team, it's a no-brainer, it's just part of the job. Picking a starting 11 is easy. No, I don't think it's easy, and I don't like it, to be honest, because you need to tell people that you're not included, and I don't like that, to be honest. But it's a part of a head coach job, and it needs to be done. But it's not fun to leave players out, especially when you know that they have quality and are deserved to actually be brought into the roster.
Yep. And speaking of the head coach role as well, how are you tackling your own growth in that role? And are you still learning? Because a coach can go from team to team, and it might be different pieces of equipment that you work with, being the players or something. But, how do you learn, and how do you grow, and where do you get your inspiration from?
As you heard me say so many times, I always talk about one day better. And it comes from actually my own passion from young, how I always wanted to learn, and curiosity is important to me. Like there's no coincidence that I have 6.5 years university study and a lot of government loans to do those studies, because I want to learn. and I've done a lot of visit to clubs, different countries, read a lot of leadership books, listened to TED Talks, listened to podcasts, having, walk and talks with a lot of people to discuss everything from what is success really? What is success? What does that stand for? And where does it come from? And where's the why in leaderships and people drive and inner motivate? Like, I can go around and around about this because it's my true passion. And how do I get better? I get better in every, like this talk. I'm probably going to reflect on this one, and because you've asked a lot of interesting questions that make me think about things, and yep. Probably this talk itself is going to make me one day better. So every meeting with people is, I'm going to take something new away. And just this last couple of weeks, I've learned a lot because we have a lot of new staff members coming into this tournament, and being in a dialogue and conversation with those staff members have also taught me a lot. Everything from sports science to tactical analysis of an opponent so I learn every day. And the day I said I'm fully learned, I'm probably done. I'm done with this job. I'm not going to be successful anymore, because I think we need to have that growth mindset and keep getting one day better every day.
Yeah, hopefully we've got time for a couple more questions. And I don't know if you've got anyone lined up afterwards, but a couple of questions just about the tournament, I suppose. One of them being activating Sam Kerr, which is something that you've mentioned. 2 minutes, cool. Thanks, Anne. Activating Sam Kerr. And then the other thing is for the opening game, because I know that will be on your mind, who in particular from Indonesia could specifically trouble the Matildas or break down the game a little bit in the way that you might want to play it?
I think I struggled in the beginning to find the right solution to activate Sam Kerr in the early last year. And I was open with that as well. And I had a lot of conversation with Sam. How can we bring the most out of you and get the players around you, width, depth, and all this kind of thing, and have people facilitate you so that you can do your best or be your best. I think in the Olympics, we find a good solution on it. I mean, scoring 6 goals in a tournament as a 9 is a good stat. So I do think we found ways, and I've seen progress. So no matter if we play 3-4-3 or 4-3-3, we have a really good idea of what we need around Sam for Sam to be successful. She's probably going to have, 2 people playing very close to her defensively through the whole tournament in the Asian Cup here. We need to find different ways to solve that. What can cause a problem? Who can cause us problem? I think in the group stage, we're going to see a lot of tight, low defending blocks. There's going to be very limited space behind the back line, very limited space in the goal zone, in the box, with a lot of numbers defending. And we've seen it in the men's game and the women's game. We've seen it in the Champions League. We've seen it in big tournaments for national team, how difficult it is to break that down. And I think we need to be patient, mentally patient, but also we need to be proactive and have ways to create space for our pacey players. And we've done a lot of analysis on why we haven't succeeded in winning this tournament for over a decade. Last time we won it was 2010. And to be honest, the stats are not really good against Japan, which could be looked upon as a key opponent in a tournament like this. But we need to be humble and say there's other teams that can hurt us on the way. But looking at the ranking, maybe it should be a key game between the Matildas and Japan. And I think since 2010 in competition, we have only one win. One win in over 11 years against Japan in competition mode is not good stats. And we asked the key question, why is that? And how are we going to change that? And we spend a lot of time focusing on that. Not to go into details to reveal too much, but we do have a plan how we think we can go about it.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much. I think Anne's probably going to wrap us up, but I wish you all the very best for the tournament. Very best of luck for you, for the players, and for all of the team around you as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And with all the great support from everyone around, I know it's going to be an amazing tournament like the Olympics as well. So we feel the support from everyone.